Can you talk about why are people apprehensive to ask for the sale? Why do we lose our ability to be confident in that moment when it comes to the pitch or the actual, hey, do you want to become a client of mine?
Yeah, I think it's rooted in a lot of different things, Moshe, but you mentioned, the energy that we bring to any interaction. You also, when you were giving that example of picking somebody up at the bar, you used different words, etc. I find that in general, and forgive me, I will often speak in very broad strokes and broad generalizations when it comes to different career types and different types of personalities, but I know there are always exceptions to the rule. By and large, the attorneys that I know and the attorneys that I work with are very confident people. Now, their confidence, however, is sometimes highly based in their skill, in their acumen as an attorney, in their education, their pedigree, the connections that they have. This is a different type of confidence than selling. Selling is a completely different brand of confidence. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that not a ton of law schools out there are really giving folks a bunch of information on how to build a successful small firm and how to sell, how to pitch, how to come across confidently. So it's almost like when you are a very high functioning, highly intelligent, highly cerebral person, as most attorneys are, they do have a lot of confidence in those areas of life. And then they get to another area. I like to call them the different stages on which we are performing. So maybe the stage is in front of a client trying to pitch your services to them. And suddenly they're struck with a lack of confidence, or they find themselves stumbling over their words. And this can really shake folks' identity about themselves, because they suddenly go, hold on a second, what just happened? I know myself to be confident. I do good work. I have good relationships with my clients. I win cases for them. And why am I suddenly feeling so nervous about something? I suppose we could look at it more globally as well and say that in general, when it comes to asking someone for money, we are feeling vulnerable. And very few of us enjoy feeling vulnerable. So when that vulnerability kicks in and we're sitting in front of that person essentially saying, hey, do you like me enough to give me your money? Do you have enough confidence in me to part with your hard-earned cash? That's a very vulnerable moment, and we can no longer live in the intellectual realm, as many of us like to do, and I believe many attorneys feel very comfortable in the intellectual realm. Suddenly we're in the emotional realm of things. And that emotional realm, depending on how much experience we have or how much background we have in exploring our emotions and learning how to cope with difficult emotions that come up, we may feel caught off guard by this sudden almost change of temperature, let's say, within our bodies and ourselves.
Yeah, very interesting. When we start looking at what the cause of it is, I guess we can start to uncover the surface of how we might go about fixing it or getting around it. So talk to us about what are the types of things that you do with your clients? Are there specific exercises? Like, how do you get somebody who's saying, hey, I don't know what's going on with me. I get to this point where I start to pitch our services, or I tell them what our fees are going to be, and I start stumbling over my words. I can't get the next word out of my mouth, and this just doesn't feel good to me. What are the ways or techniques that you use to try to get somebody past that?
I believe in starting with basic biology and giving folks some information and education about their bodies and the way we evolved as humans. And I think a very important piece of this puzzle is the deeper understanding that nothing has gone wrong if you're suddenly feeling afraid or vulnerable or nervous or anxious. It's very human and it's rooted in our biology. Now, if we think back to, even a few hundred years ago, we would have been living in smaller groups or tribes. We would have been more dependent than we are right now on one another for safety and survival. That being said, we are still incredibly dependent on one another for our overall health and well-being. That's a very important aspect. But this would have been a matter of survival back in ancient times. So it is very, very important to us, whether we believe this or not, that other people like us, that we are accepted into the greater group, that we are respected, that we are cared for. So when we have a moment where we feel like we may offend somebody or alienate someone or have someone not like us, it triggers some very deep, very ancient biological impulses to be liked, because being liked is equated with being safe. So there's an aspect to our biology that is like an ancient alarm system. And this ancient alarm system gets tripped in certain situations, and we don't have full control over that. Now, I know from certain individuals that I have worked with before, this definitely applies to some attorneys and also other professionals. Not everybody likes that news that I share with them, because we live in a time where we would love to believe that we can just completely not care what other people think about us, and that it doesn't matter, and that feelings are for weaklings, etc. But this is just a part of our biology we can't ignore. So I love to start with that piece so that we have normalization of what we are feeling, and we recognize that nothing has gone wrong with me. I'm just a normal human being, and this is the way normal human bodies react to stressors in our environment. So from that point, Moshe, I love to work with clients in 3 different main ways. The first way, and this is where I generally tend to start with attorneys, because I find that they resonate with these concepts very quickly and easily. I start with the cognitive aspect of dealing with emotions such as anxiety or intrusive thoughts. So we explore through a series of exercises and practices, what is it that my brain is saying to me all day long? Are these messages? Because we think somewhere, experts presume we think somewhere between 20 and 40,000 thoughts per day, which I find kind of unbelievable. If we can become more aware of the mental chatter that's constantly running in the background, we are likely going to find a lot of self-destructive or self-harming or non-supportive messages that we keep repeating. Maybe we pick these up from childhood, from our family of origin, from greater society at large, but our brain is essentially hardwired for negativity. This is a real boon for attorneys. It's shown that people who can be highly pessimistic and skeptical can be very successful in professions such as law, because they can see things coming down the pipeline. They can forestall bad events. So we take this sort of inborn, innate, negative factory setting that we have, which is helping keep us safe in this big, dangerous world, and we want to learn how to take a step back and examine it so that we can decide which messages we want to keep and which messages we would like to change into something more helpful and supportive. Now, this is not just about positive affirmations, because I, for one, believe that positive affirmations work only rarely, because if I, for example, think that I'm terrible at pitching to clients and I have that mental chatter running in the background all the time, I can't lie to myself and say, I'm great at pitching to clients, because my brain goes, no, you're not. That's a load of BS. That's untrue. So we have to work to find positive self-talk that is not only more supportive, but also has a dose of realism in it. So maybe that would be helping client develop some self-talk that would go something like this instead. Although I may not always be the most confident at selling, I know with time and effort, I can learn to get better at it and excel in this area as well.